notice of a special meeting of council today for the purpose of a work session for the following purposes: renew upcoming infrastructure projects. No action will be taken. At this time, I need a motion that we rise to committee of the whole for a work session.
So moved.
At all.
Everybody.
Mr. Rogers. Move that we rise. Discussion, call the roll.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Whitaker? I'm sorry, Rogers?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Okay, whose turn is it? Fire and fall back.
Yeah, come on over here.
So thank you, council, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to indulge us in having this special council meeting. We, on a regular annual basis, I should say, try to gather council and discuss potential upcoming projects. And the purpose is for a couple reasons. One, we want to keep you in the know and let you know that what we feel as administration, the priorities are for improvements in our city. And then the second reason is to discuss costs. We, as a collective whole, obviously need to take a hard look at the budget and figure out if we can make these projects become feasible. So a little bit of a background: when we look at a project, projects come about because we feel through evaluation that there's a need for improvement. And then the second part of looking at any project is trying to figure out how we're going to pay for it. We have the availability of some grants, we have the availability of our enterprise fund, and then we have the capital infrastructure plan, or commonly known as the CIP. So this evening, as we go through this, we are going to discuss a project on Wagner Avenue. It's called the Wagner Avenue Extension. We'll talk about the Wagner Avenue Rush Road intersection. We are going to discuss Ohio Street, which will be broken up into 3 phases: Phase 1, Phase 2, and then South Ohio. And then the last project we're going to talk about will be some improvements on Broadway. Mr. Bowers from the Economic Development Department is here to help us shed some light on maybe the need for some of these projects as we talk about the extension for Wagner Avenue and what potential businesses are looking for in infrastructure and from the city when they come to town. And then also, as we discuss Broadway, as being the previous mayor, he was very instrumental in basically the ground roots effort to get some vibrancy, or continued vibrancy, I should say, in our downtown area, and working with Main Street Greenville. So when we get into Broadway, we'll discuss more about that. So thank you for coming this evening. Appreciate it. My pleasure. Yeah. This is a work session, so feel free to ask questions. Constructive criticism is good. We'll talk through this, and hopefully we will feel accomplished when we get out of here. Taco Tuesday. Inside joke. But President Burke had asked on Monday, how long do you think it's going to take? And I looked at him and said 2 hours, and immediately Eric said, how do you explain this to glazed over eyes? So if you start to become glazed over, say, come on, let's get this going. All right? I'm not here to bore you. I'm not here to hear myself talk, but so ask good questions and we'll get through this. All right, so the first project we're going to look at this evening is Wagner Avenue. And a little bit of background, how this project came about, in some discussions about Trilogy, or the Greenville Health Campus, Dollar Tree, and Casey's is another one. Those were all recent projects where a company was coming to town, and they were, as a part of a development plan that was created a long time ago, one of their requirements to build on the lot that they purchased was that they had to basically build a road. Another one that I can add into that was in another remote location was Reed Hospital. And actually Reed Hospital was a real big one because they had to widen all of Jackson Street from the corporation line down to Katzenberger?
Katzenberger.
Always get Katzenberger and Kirkberg mixed up, those start kids. Anyways, that was a big requirement for them. And I can distinctly remember the gentleman from Reed Hospital coming in and is like, I just want to build a hospital. I don't want to have to build a road. And so when we evaluated that project, for those of you that weren't here, he pretty much said, tell me how much it's going to cost, and if you guys will build it, we'll just pay it. We don't build roads, we want to build hospitals. So that's how that project came to fruition. And then, like I said, we had the other three. So as we're evaluating Wagner Avenue, why does that play into Wagner Avenue? As we look at Wagner Avenue, as it proceeds north from Lowe's on one side of the street, and then on the other side of the street, it's kind of like Russ Road, it's intermittent. You have Walmart that widened, the Shell station that widened, then I believe in front of Dave Knapp, maybe it narrows. You get out to Dollar Tree, it widens back out, it gets wider, and then it narrows back in as you go south. The carpet store wasn't forced to widen their section, so they built, they're not done. There's a house that's been there forever, and nothing has been done there. So as we look at potential businesses or that area developing, and one of the things that was discussed at our most recent CIC, Greenville CIC long-range planning, what was that called? What did you call that?
Strategic plan.
Strategic plan, thank you. One of the things that came out of that meeting was a retail corridor, a place for retail within the city. Well, Wagner Avenue is the, as we proceed north, is the likely spot for that. So, anyways, Jeff Serber, who his father owns a good bit of the land on the west side, and he purchased a property on the east side right next to Whirlpool, came to Chad and myself with a proposal. We looked at it. It somewhat makes sense. Would like to discuss it with you this evening. As whether it's somebody that would develop on one of his properties, or Charlie Chin has some property out there. A lot of the businesses come and do not want to build roads. So, anyways.
So wait, now, can I ask you this?
Sure.
Are they willing to pay for this?
Well, that's exactly where we're going with it. We, as a city, cannot afford this project. Okay? This project of road widening on both sides, plus resurfacing, and that's what this picture right here is showing you, not the roundabout, but this side of the page. There's 3 sections. Should be right in front. You have it on paper clip. The first paper clip, first set of papers. No, you're on the other section.
Oh, that's the circle.
This one on the Salina Road one?
That's
The very top
Yeah,
one.
pull them back up. We're not
Yeah.
there yet.
I put them on order.
Salina Road improvement.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There it is. Got it.
I'm kind of lost.
Okay.
I was
So,
looking at that one.
basically started
Put that picture right there.
left to right, then left to right.
Pull that out.
A roundabout.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Right there. That one right there. So everybody have this in front of them? Hold it this way.
What is the
Or I
business?
guess
This would be.
that's the Kroger gas station.
Yes, okay, okay.
So at the very top, you have you have these in 3 segments. The top line left to right, then you get to the bottom and go back in the middle left to right, and then the bottom left to right. Okay? So what we're depicting there is the addition of a lane on the west side and the east side of the road, sidewalks on both sides, drive approaches, storm drainage, water and sewer lines are already, that infrastructure is already in the ground. We would propose that we would take the water line an 8-inch underneath or an open cut Wagner Avenue and get it on the west side so that it could be distributed to the any businesses that decide to locate on that side. That way we don't have to come back and open cut a newly paved and paved road.
The business businesses are gonna pay for this?
Any questions on the pictures?
They're pretty.
The top
Yeah.
left corner is where you said Kroger's
Correct.
fuel was.
Correct.
Well, is
Where
it,
is it?
got Arby's in there and.
That's
Right, that's Lisa Avenue.
okay.
That's Arby's.
So 4 lanes and a turn lane.
That's Arby's.
Correct.
This is,
What is currently in front of Walmart right now? Will be all the way out.
Right.
And sidewalk.
And sidewalks.
Do we get the sidewalks to go into the businesses?
Mhm.
No, we're not gonna work outside of the right way.
And this is Pizza Hut all in there.
Yeah.
The
If
one-
we wanna make that a part of their plan as they build, then that's our prerogative to do that.
A lot of businesses now are starting to, they're required to have an ADA access off of the sidewalk, so a lot of businesses are building up to them now.
I was gonna say now, but not when a lot of these businesses were built, because Walmart doesn't even have pedestrian access.
Well, we didn't even build the road with handicap ramps.
Oh,
We just
yeah.
recently put those in,
Right.
so. Okay, so, yes, pretty pictures, I get that. What we're all concerned with is what is it gonna cost us? So on the cost page, that was the very first page of that little packet we put together. You can see that the project cost is $1,730,061.25. It's the number at the very bottom. Okay. This also includes some repaving that would go all the way back to, I believe, Russ Road, because it needs paved, or will need paved.
You're talking Russ Road, is there a plan to upgrade Russ Road in the same manner? Like where it's
That's a later discussion, but yes.
divided all up down
That's a
there?
later discussion, but yes.
Yeah.
So of the 1 point, you see that I have some pencil notes at the bottom of the cost sheet. How we would propose to pay for this $1.7 million project is we would obtain a loan from the Ohio Public Works, which we could get a 0% interest loan for 30 years. I know you're all shaking your heads, but please just indulge me and follow along, okay? It makes sense. A 30-year, 0% interest loan for the 1.7 million. This council has the ability to assess, when you ask the question, are the businesses willing to pay for it, to assess the cost of the improvements in front of their lots. So with the road widening, the resurfacing, the sidewalks, the curbs, all of the improvements in front of the lot, they would have to pay for it, or the developer would pay for it when they develop the lot. What we're doing is we're creating it now. We're creating a shovel-ready site. All they have to do is come in and build their business. The road's done. We're gonna take out a loan. We're going to, and that is what page 2, the spreadsheet shows, is the deed frontage. So the first column shows whether or not they're on the east side or the west side. Tax ID number, the owner's name. The next column is the deed frontage.
which one are you talking about here?
The spreadsheet right here. That sheet. And then the costs from the first page have been divided by the frontage, or divided up, I should say, to figure out a cost per parcel. In that assessment cost for improvements. And then there is one parcel, the Dollar Tree, that is already improved, so they're not going to, should not be required to pay an assessment. They've already paid their portion. The other part, as we look at this, you'll see that the city of Greenville is named as a landowner. We own the detention pond. So there's nobody to assess the east side road widening. So the city would be responsible for that. The additional Resurfacing that I talked about outside of the construction limits for the road widening would be the city responsibility. But the important number is the bottom right-hand corner where you see that $1,364,066.93 is potentially able to be assessed by council. Well, yes and no. So when you go back to the first page, this page, to bring this all full circle. The reason I said, look, you can't assess the full 1.3 million is because the city of Greenville numbers are in there. So what we could collect from from the property owners is $1,207,056.42 off of the 1.7 million. If we were to collect the assessment over 20 years, mind you, we have a 30-year loan. If we collected the assessment over 20 years, that would be $60,352.82 per year. Our loan payment per year at 0% interest is $57,668.71. So the assessment coming in would make the loan payment for the first 20 years. The thought process is that within 20 years, this land will be improved. That's why we're doing this. That there'll be buildings out there, there'll be jobs out there, the increased revenue from the income tax would, again, speculation, make the loan payment on the last 10 years of the loan.
On the creative carpet people that's already built there, would they already know this, they're gonna have to widen the road and all that in front of their business, or?
We haven't, I mean, no, we've not.
Because what I could see is like 552,000. They'd probably be pretty upset.
Well, I guess my question would be, is, as this develops, are we never going to do that? So would we widen the road all around them, but not that section?
Yeah, I understand that, but they already built their business there already. They're not building a building there.
And, yeah, it's unfortunate that,
That would be sort of like grandfathered in.
no.
We got it, I mean, we would have basically 5 lanes the whole way through except one property.
If we didn't do this.
Yeah.
If we exempted them.
Yeah, okay.
The Creative Rentals or LLC up there at the top.
Right.
55,000.
It's 55,000.
All right, 55,000.
I do believe he's aware of it.
Oh, I'm a
Over
glasses,
20
can't see it.
But what's that over 20 years? I mean, it's, it's not,
All right,
it's not a lot. It's not a
55,000, I
little
can
bit
go
of
with
amount of
that.
money.
I can go with that better than
Yeah.
500 and whatever.
I mean, the whole project's
Right.
1.7, so yeah, 500,000
I told Kurt to hold this thing out here before I could see it.
Kurt, at DT Retail Properties, that's Dollar Tree,
Dollar
right?
Tree,
Okay.
right.
Kurt, we would already have this set in motion, correct? I mean, as far as that the property owners would be assessed?
Well, this council would have several different pieces of legislation to enact to make that happen.
Well, that's what I was getting at, is the fact that whether it was gonna be this council that would enact that, or whether maybe future councils, and their feelings may be different.
No, once it's done, it's done.
Okay, that's fine.
Once it's done.
I was just asking.
I would point out that a majority of these property owners don't live in the city of Greenville. They don't vote. And it's for city.
Oh, and the one that owns the most, the one that brought it to us.
Yeah, and the one that family owns the most, the one that brought this concept to us.
Well, it seems like it benefits one person the most.
Yes.
seems like we are improving their land so that they can market it.
He's still paying for it though.
They're paying.
Did you speak to that?
He's paying every dime for it.
Well, I wouldn't mind if he's paying for the whole thing.
He is. For his
The whole
property.
For his property.
He's paying for his properties. And it just kind of piggyback on
Each
that,
one is
when,
paying
when
for
we
it.
did Jackson, they just basically said, we'll put the money in escrow, you build the road. Casey's have been looked at by 5 or 6 different businesses, didn't want to widen the road. We got the same issue right beside Comfort Inn and everyone out there. I mean, as we develop, as people build out on Wagner Avenue, we're gonna put in a new section of widened road with chevrons on each side so that you don't drive on it, because it's not a through road. It's gonna continue to do that the whole way out. The idea is we do it all right now, when it's never gonna be cheaper. We assess them so that they pay it. They're gonna pay it anyway, whether they sell it to someone, a developer does it, or they do it themselves. We're just gonna do it all now when it's cheap. It works for us. We have no traffic issues this way. We just collect it over there. And having a shovel-ready site versus them having to build the road themselves, it's already done for them. We would expect that the properties would move a lot quicker,
Build it and they will come.
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can, granted, John, they're going to be improving their property, but if they're paying for it in reality, then who,
Well, if they're paying for it up front, that would be great.
well, they're paying for it over 20 years.
I mean, to
Just
me,
like
it
we
kinda
are.
stinks a little bit.
Also,
That, well, I mean, I got property on Wagner. I don't see that my property is gonna get any benefit.
Because
I can bring a project to you. I mean, it seems to me it's a lot of insider things going on here, even to the beginning of purchasing all these properties. It seems to have been going on for a number of years. But that's just my opinion of that. I mean, I think if we're gonna do a street project, then we should focus on a street that's almost developed already, and that's Wagner, or Russ Road, between Wagner and 121. I mean, you're talking about the same type of situation, but that one exists right now. And get that road up to par.
I don't disagree, but the part that's not developed isn't within the city limits.
Market Cape's Corner.
It's not in the
Well,
city limits.
not that, but there one beside Holiday Inn, Holiday Express.
Right, and we had someone come through planning commission last year, maybe when you were still on there, that got a conditional use for that property, they just never built it.
Yeah, that was good. I was
Some sort of-
personally not.
Some sort of office
we could do
building.
this same concept and complete Russ Road while we're at it.
Well, yeah, I like it. I mean, let's do it.
Here's the, with Ohio Public Works. Our district for Ohio Public Works receives about $2 million available to the entire district for 0% interest loans. Okay? As we talk through this project, we could go borrow all of the $2 million because our project scores well now. And looking at the preliminary scoring, our project is, I believe, 90 to 95, and that's like right 1 or 2 for the last 3 years in projects. So the probability of receiving all $2 million is likely. However, what is also likely is that we are going to upset some other municipalities who had applications that had a combination of grant money and loan money. And now their project may not be feasible because there's no loan money for the district to hand out. So we were proposing to only go after enough to complete the Wagner Avenue site. Now, that's not to say that, we couldn't do it again in a future year, but that was one of the reasons why we kind of kept it within the scope. I know that one person owns, or family owns, a lot of property along there, but I also know that if the city would move forward with this, and yeah, it makes their property more valuable, but if their property becomes more valuable, we win too, because our property tax goes up. The businesses that's going to come to that vacant land and create jobs and buildings that are going to create property tax, That's gonna be a huge win for this city. That's why we hope that in 20 years that enough has come here that we can continue to make that $50,000 a year payment for 10 years.
John,
Seems like we're helping one another.
That's stuff
called
you gotta all
community.
look at,
Well, yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I understand the whole concept.
Okay.
I just don't like the way it looks.
John, you said you own property on Wagner? Where's it at?
Not that section.
Not that.
Not that side, okay.
We are also looking at, and if you don't mind me just saying, that retail corridor concept does, from a marketing standpoint, when we get asked questions all the time, and typically my office doesn't get involved in the commercial, the retail side or anything along those lines. It's more with the manufacturers and that, but, you still get questions from some people that say, why can't we attract so-and-so to come to Greenville? Why can't we get this restaurant? Why can't we get this shopping? Why can't, those are questions we've gotten even when I sat in Steve's chair of why doesn't the city go after those things? Well, I think what you're looking at is establishing a retail corridor in that regard, where that's kind of the big box store area of Greenville. And I think all Kurt's saying is, if you develop a retail corridor, it's more attractive for somebody coming in that commercial retail space to look at that and to invest and to bring more opportunity, as Kurt said, more jobs, more building, more retail, restaurant, anything that makes a difference. Now, will it fill up in those 20 years? Who's got the crystal ball? I think the last one I saw was Mr. Perkins. But, we can't, you never know what might hold in the future. You're just trying to put out there and market your community the best way that you can, to put your best foot forward, to put those opportunities out there so that somebody looks at your community, so somebody looks at investing in your community.
Been several comments on Facebook recently, why we don't have an Applebee's or Fazoli's or, those type of restaurants. And, this is a part of it is, like we said, shovel-ready,
Not attractive.
and it's more attractive.
Good for Facebook. I'm impressed.
It also seems to me like, we do this, some of the other empty storefronts we have might more likely fill up too. It just makes it all the more attractive.
It may, well,
A thought.
and it's a good thought. The problem you run into is the majority of those big box places that are gonna come in, so your J.C. Penney's may look like that for the foreseeable future, because anybody that looks says, we wanna build a standalone store. And from my perspective, that gets to be one of the most frustrating things, because you've got a Marsh store, you've got a Penny store that's
Right.
gonna be a good place for somebody to go into, and they come in and look and they go, well, if we were to look at your area, we would build a standalone store. And you look at it and you go, you've got a box right there that you could be in 6 months instead of building something to be in 12 to 18. So there you go, they go, no, we want to build our own standalone store. So that's where a retail corridor helps in that regard. I know Steve Speranza from Tulsa Enterprises works his tail off to try to get somebody in that Penny's box. It's just a very tough piece, just because of the thought process of corporations.
So the last portion of the project, and this is just long-term, very long-term, what is our north end, or what could our north end look like? The pretty picture that you have in front of you, turn it over on the back side. And that is also the cost of constructing the roundabout is on the back page of the price sheet that I gave you. So $544,000. This is not included in our Wagner Avenue extension. This would be a project that the city of Greenville would most likely, well, not would have to pay for 100% out of pocket. You don't assess for work that's not in front of someone's property, and this is not in front of anyone's particular property. So it's a neat concept. Roundabouts are becoming more popular. Get rid of the stop signs. You create a fluid movement. As you have semi-traffic, cars, pedestrians, we hope, in that area, it makes everything flow. So
We would definitely want to increase that size, though, to accommodate big truck traffic.
we've already put the template on.
I was going to say, because 41 and 235, that's where they're having their problem.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, they didn't build it correctly.
No.
We even talked about it during this. On paper, it was good.
Right.
In function, it's not.
Does John Deere have sidewalks
Yes.
on Children's Home, Bradford Road?
Yes.
And
And
don't they have something contingent on the curb too?
and they do have something contingent on the curb that if that road were
If
to
we connect,
be
they have to
improved,
connect to it.
and a strap and a street light.
In the meantime, we can just practice right on here, right?
Of course.
The roundabout driving.
Right.
So, again, long-term planning, long-term
Roundabouts.
That was
concept,
aimed at you.
but we just throw that out there for, concept purposes. That's what our north end could become. So, any questions on this project? So another reason why I bring this project to you tonight, and this is really the project that speared this entire meeting. We have a good relationship with our county engineer, and our county engineer is the one that's in charge of the Ohio Public Works grant loan process for our county. Actually, Mark in the engineer's office is technically the county rep, but Jim pretty much, I called him a dictator once because of how he runs and he said, well, maybe I am a dictator, but I'm a benevolent dictator. And, to the city of Greenville, I would tell you, we have worked really well together. We've been able to accomplish Ohio East Main Street. We've got extra, we've gotten a grant for Schweitzer, which took several $100,000 away from a burden on our CIP that maybe we wouldn't even be talking about some of these other projects. We were also able to get a grant for North Broadway, which was going to be 100% out of pocket out of our CIP. So we have this good working relationship, and we want to continue that relationship. The reason that is important is because Jim has started a new process that every other year, he's pretty much told all of the municipalities that I'm taking 100% of the money. And I'm taking 100% of the money, and I'm going to use 50% of that for county paving, and I'm going to use the other 50% that if the townships will kick in dollar for dollar, we're going to use the other 50% to pave township roads, because the townships really don't have access, they don't score well enough. So he said, don't turn in an application on those off years. Well, 2018 application year is technically our off year, because an application that's filled out in 18 will get funded and the work will take place in 19. So we know that we can't turn in a grant. But we asked, said, Jim, can we turn in a loan application? And we shared with him the amount and said, yes, we can do, you can do the loan, but don't take my grant money. So that loan application is due around the end of July. So if we were going to move forward with this and the other reason I want to do it on the off year is because it doesn't look good going into that funding cycle with two projects. One big one, you're taking all the loan money, and another one that you're asking for grant money. Really, nobody does that. Nobody turns in two different projects in the same year, even though you could. It's just not done. So we would like to turn in this application for this application year, which would be funded in 19, no sooner than July 1. And then next year, we're going to talk about next year's application here in a little bit. So and I don't know if tonight, I know you don't make decisions, but somehow would like to continue the conversation, either up or down. Would you like to move forward with this year, or would you like to back away with it and maybe wait 2 years? So let's get through all of them. We've got, we're theoretically spending a lot of money tonight, so, when you add up all these projects. So let's just look at it as a whole and maybe review, at the end. But that is, there's some other reason why we talk about this project tonight. Any other questions on it? Okay, the next one's gonna be hopefully real quick. The Wagner Russ Road intersection. This has a cost sheet and a trifold, very busy drawing
Sketchy.
in front of you, detailed, not really. So I had alluded to the fact that at a recent council meeting that Hardee's was wanting to purchase land in front of Rule King. They wanted to obviously build there, Hardee's. And through the conversation of a pre-development meeting, the question was asked of the developer, would you as Hardee's be willing to give the city more right-of-way in your little piece of the pie so that we might improve the Russ Wagner intersection, at least in, well, a couple different directions, and it would be the north-south direction. Some trucks making the turn, drive over the curb if they're headed south, and those heading north wanting to make a eastbound turn. Yeah, they definitely run up over the side of the curb. You can see we've tried to concrete it, and to no avail, they still run up the green space.
I think even the picture on Google Earth shows you that that truck can't make that turn.
Yeah, it's really tight.
Yeah, and that,
Pretty
when you play
opportune
that,
moment.
that's Google Earth. You can see the semi trying to make the turn, and he's up over the curb.
Is there a way to include to that stop bar for that left turn lane back further? So many times those vehicles have had to back up, yet room for a semi.
Well,
And when it's stacked up too much, then they have nowhere to go.
right, well, if we do this right here, we won't need it.
Yeah, because they'll actually be able to swing out further.
Okay, swing out further and get around.
Cut that corner off a little bit.
Okay, kind of what's going on, I know that there's not line weights. This was a conceptual drawing. We've since done some better ones, but they don't really take the whole project into consideration. I thought this would be the best way to illustrate it. We looked at three different functions. One, pulling the curb back and leaving the pole out by the street. The turn templates, what that is, it kind of shows a truck in the north-south, on the right side of Wagner Avenue moving up, and it kind of swings out. You can kind of follow the two lines. That's that would be the truck trailer path, and then the closest one towards the curb is where the back wheels would drag. I know it's a lot to take on, but trust me, it's called a turn template, and you can see that the truck can make the turn.
Is there enough right-of-way on this section right here to put in a right turn lane?
It wouldn't stack very far. I mean, you might be able to get one or two cars there.
You would stack clear back of the entrance of Rule King.
Yeah, that wouldn't be that far.
You couldn't get in.
No, in front of McDonald's. Right
He's
turn
talking
lane
about
in
up
front
here.
of McDonald's.
Yeah. that's-
Is there enough right-of-way in through there?
Talking about Russ Road, then,
Could it-
basically.
I mean, we put a man on the moon,
Really
everything
not
would be
bad.
done.
That is really, you go up there at noon on a Friday and look at what's going on up there.
Yeah, I don't for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, it is just jam-packed. Everybody wants to get.
So what you're asking, John, is something right here?
Yeah, right in the,
Well,
that
the
sidewalk.
black line,
Come across their
the
entrance.
black line depicts the right of way on a diagonal from this point to this point. This whole area out in here is right of way.
Okay, because see, that would alleviate some of that congestion back in there. I mean, the locals are getting to the point where they will stop there like where that.
No, he's talking right here.
No, he's talking there. Yeah, he's northeast
Yeah.
corner.
Yeah, he's in the right
That's what
place.
he's asking about. He's trying.
I was thinking of leaving the congestion there so that the entry, because a lot of the locals will actually stop back where that white car is on over. East, white, all the way.
That's east.
All
right? This is north, that's east, that's west, that's south.
A lot of the locals now are stopping here so that traffic can come and get out.
Oh, so to make their
So you
left-hand
get
turn.
in and left.
Going to McDonald's.
A lot of
Yes.
them won't. They'll just block it all up.
So your thought, what you're saying is put like a continuous right-hand turn lane to keep this traffic
Yeah,
moving,
right.
so that this eliminates a lot of this stacking through.
Right, because people right there, it blocks anybody from getting out of this lane here.
Absolutely, can it? Yes, as Chad said, but
I don't know if it's
costs
practical.
a lot of dollars.
You would need retaining wall along there, because you got a grade issue, you'd have to redo that side, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
And then the visibility, I wonder if you pull up, you know what I mean, whether you're able to actually look back. I mean, but I'm sure it could be done, but for the immediate purpose, this project, what this did, this was our opportunity to obtain the right of way. We realized we don't have the money probably to do this right now. But now we have that right of way. When we have it, we can actually go and we can fix it correctly, is kind of the long and short of it. We looked at 3 different options. The one that we chose, we feel like we need to pull the pole back behind the sidewalk. Because we're doing that, it's too much strain on the other poles, so we have to redo the other poles, but we feel like it's worth it to fix this intersection.
So of all the projects we're gonna talk about tonight, it's probably at the bottom of our priority list.
Well, if Mr. Server's so philanthropic, why didn't let him pay for it?
Who's that?
I heard that.
But we do have the authorization for the right-of-way then?
When the plat is
When we
recorded.
do the
we
plat,
will.
yeah, they presented a plat, and we changed it a little bit, so when it goes to final, they're basically gonna donate that right away to us,
Okay.
so that we're able to, this is kind of an FYI, we're obtaining this to do this.
I haven't seen any of the preliminary plans, and I know that they're still debating about, are they adding more curb cuts in this area?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely.
I won't let that happen.
As I say, that would be crazy.
Right, I mean, I'm real touchy about curb cuts on Wagner Avenue, I'd probably shut down 40% of them if I could.
I went in to Rural King the other day, and it's hard to find a parking space in Rural King because they got so much junk out there.
Right.
I mean, they might have parking in the back, but too lazy to do that.
Any questions on the Russ Wagner intersection? Again, it's a long-term goal to improve that intersection. I would tell you, out of the accidents that we have every month, if you follow the police reports that you get, you will notice that that section probably has the most accidents in the entire city. Either rear ends or people pulling up either direction, wanting to make a left-hand turn, even though they're in the left-hand turn lane. You have a blind spot seeing oncoming traffic, and you have accidents. So anyways, with the data that we have, we know that we need to do some improvements. This is one of the ways that we see to do that. So, any other questions?
Yeah, Kurt,
Yes.
down here on the parking lot of Royal King, this line here, is that the right of way also?
That's the proposed one.
This is the proposed right-of-way, and the new traffic signal pole would sit right behind.
Right there, okay,
Pave a parking lot for them.
okay. And I
Actually, I take that back.
I bet Rural King's selling that
Yeah,
lot to them.
yeah, that is correct. I'm sorry.
'Cause they
How is
understand
Arby's
Parking-
gonna
their
fit in
parking
there?
lots.
Arby's.
Terrible.
Hardee's.
Hardee's.
Terrible.
They can.
Ooh.
With the required parking.
What's that?
She asked how Hardee's could.
How is Hardee's going to fit in there with Royal King and their customers?
Oh, basically, so there's an outlot that's already there. Can you see it? The lot's already there. It's just Rural King owned both of them. Same way Kmart owned both of them. They just decided to build or to sell it off. And they have the parameters for the frontage, the sides and everything to put a commercial lot on there.
Why is it not moving, Chad?
He was moving it
That's gonna
earlier.
cause a lot of congestion too, isn't it?
There's a white
Yeah,
fly.
Yeah.
I'm moving it with my finger. How's
There's a
that?
white fly on that
That's
screen.
movable with it. So this box, this black line here,
Uh-huh.
here, is a lot that was already parcel.
That's what I
we
thought
already
that
created.
was, that for Hardee's, right?
And that's where,
That's the property that they're buying, yes.
that's where Hardy's gonna go right
So,
there.
Yes, and then they're actually trying to purchase from Rural King, some increased area to make the parking lot and drives a little bit bigger.
They're trying to put Royal King out of business?
so you'll go
Well,
through,
Roll King's selling
through
it.
that parking lot to get to Hardee's.
Correct, correct. So, yeah.
Yeah, they-
If you got more questions about it, we can talk about Hardee's later,
Okay.
get through all this. Don't want your eyes to start glazing over.
Roll King's not worried.
Too late.
Taco Tuesday.
So if there's no other questions, we're gonna move on to Ohio Street.
North, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Should be just the next one that goes through there. Is it working? Are you okay?
Yeah, that Ohio at River Street, that's really a tight turn, you know.
Where you want it? I can move it with my finger.
Maybe that's why you're down.
Magic.
I
No.
wanna go to Martin Street. You can show the bridge.
Martin Street's way back.
Oh, now you're not.
So for those of you that have been around a couple of years, we've already discussed this project. We presented this project to you in two phases, probably a year and a half or so ago, as we were looking at applying for an ODOT small cities grant. And we determined that in conversation with ODOT, one, they didn't like the engineer we were using at the time and said, don't ever use them again for one of our projects. And two, you have two open projects. You have Fort Schweitzer and you have North Broadway. They're both being drug out. Really, the last thing we're gonna do is give you more money. So until we get through those projects, we're probably not gonna obtain any more small cities money. The other thing that we have found out with federal government projects, you pay more. You pay more for the project. You pay more for the engineering. You pay more, there's certain right-of-way requirements. You have to pay for the right-of-way. You have to pay for, if you need to increase the right-of-way and they have a tree within that area, or they have a retaining wall, or they have concrete steps, or they have a flower pot, you have to pay them for it. And all those expenses add up. So it has its purpose. It worked out really well, I think, when you do the comparison on how much money we got out of ODOT for Schweitzer. North Broadway, I really wish we could go back and redo that a little bit and maybe get some more money out of it, but it is what it is. This Ohio Street project, we looked at the cost that would be created by going through ODOT, and we think that it would be better to divide it up over a period of time and look at some Ohio Public Works grants and potentially loans. That's another day, another conversation on phase two. What we're really wanting to discuss tonight is phase one. And the reason we want to discuss phase one is because we would like to potentially this year at some point move forward with the engineering. And phase one would be, can you go get the intersection, Chad? So the gas station from the Martin Street intersection to the bridge, actually all the way through the bridge. Dark County Parks is bringing the bike trail across 127 over to Sebring Warner Road, up Sebring Warner, down Sater to Ohio Street, and then Ohio Street to Bishop Park. If you read the newspaper, you've seen that Dark County Parks District has purchased the Fish property that used to be home to Spencer's Landscaping. They're doing a lot of neat things with that building. We hope that eventually, maybe we see kayaking in the summer being run out of that building, similar to what happens over in West Milton. So, one of the things that we would like to do from Martin Street down to the bridge is incorporate better pedestrian bike paths or sidewalks. So because of the expense, we've broken the Ohio Street project into 2 phases. Martin Street through the bridge would be phase 1, and then from the bridge up to 4th Street would be phase 2. Phase 2 is a lot of money, and you'll have the prices in there. We'll go over that here in a little bit. So we would like to concentrate on phase 1 and how we would pay for that. So the very first sheet that you have in front of you for this packet is the cost sheet.
I ask you what
Sure.
something is?
Sure.
Mobilization, number 624, $100,000.
It's basically a blanket item it's actually defined in the construction manual, but it's basically a thing that, you know, if you have a business, you wouldn't get off the trailer unless you were getting this much money to do a job or something of that nature. Kind of similar. That's them bringing in everything, getting all the people over. There is an actual definition, but it's in every bid.
It's not like a netting that goes under pavement.
No. Nope, that's show up, everything delivered, all that good stuff.
I'll show up for 100,000.
Same here.
So I'm not gonna, if you want to drill down on the details of the construction process, you can read through the entire construction estimate. But if you want to cut to the end of the book, go to back at page 2, or page 2 on the back, and look at the bottom. You will, so you see that the project total is $2.7 million. The reason the project total is $2.7 million, if you remember the Ohio East Main Street project, we paid Greenville Construction to continue the installation of a 16-inch water line. And that water line started up north by the new school, and we brought it all the way down to 4th Street. And I forget what that change order was, but we paid an exuberant amount of money because of the change order to get that water line to 4th Street. What we would like to do is finish off the water line installation from 4th Street all the way to Martin Street, a 16-inch line. If you go,
Why is that necessary?
the necessity of that 16-inch line, and I'm sorry, mine were out of order, so I hope you have the cost sheet that says from Martin Street through the Greenville Creek Bridge. It says that at the top right here. From Martin Street to the bridge. That's the cost estimate that I'm on.
Oh, here.
Should be the one that totals 2.1.
And the total's $2.1 million.
Okay.
The second page on the back of that paper.
Yeah, it's this one. So the question is, why did we spend the money on the 16-inch water line on a previous project, and why do we want to spend $858,000 now? Well, that water line is a direct connection, that 16-inch water line is a direct connection to our north tower. So if something happened in the south end of town, we would still be able to use the standpipe to move a lot of water. The long-term goal then would be to continue the 16-inch from Martin Street out to the old Corning facility, and that way we would supply the industrial park with 2 16-inch lines. The first one comes up off of 13th Street through the Integrity property, headed east underneath 127 and over to the industrial park. The second way, it is fed from the second direction, but right now they're only 8-inch lines, and that comes off of the, actually we have an 8-inch line going down Martin Street, feeding a 16-inch line at the Corning facility, which then goes out to the industrial park. So it's kind of backwards. Normally you'd have bigger pipe, then maybe downsize. Here we're going downsize, bigger pipe. So we're filling a 16-inch pipe with an 8. So the long-term goal, like I said, would be Martin Street down to past integrity down to the Corning facility. That's probably another $800,000 project that we're not going to discuss tonight. So, anyways, so you have that portion, the $800,000 for the water line. We would have the improvement for all of the sanitary line, again, all the way up to 4th Street from Martin Street. And then we would have storm improvements that would be just within what I'll call the normal project limits, which would be the bridge to Martin Street. And what we're able to do by making those improvements using the enterprise funds is that we're able to leverage that money against an Ohio Public Works grant. And in this instance, in 2019, we would like to have an application to Ohio Public Works for an $800,000 grant. And by the time we take the $800,000 grant, the money from the water fund, money from the storm fund, money from the sanitary, it leaves a balance of $33,797.50, which we could take from permissive CIP. I have it listed as permissive just because I think it's a great thing that we can do a $2.1 million project and never touch the CIP. And we've improved the Martin Street intersection. And when I say improve it, we would have new traffic lights, new signals with the post and the arm, similar to what we did at Ohio and East Main Street, crosswalks. Mind you that we're doing all of these improvements for 2020 so that when ODOT does the urban paving and they pay from the circle all the way up to 36, that intersection is complete, along with the third project that we're going to talk about here in just a second. So this is semi-important this evening, or as we continue this year, we would so that we're ready to go July of 2019, that we would move forward with the engineering. Now the engineering is reimbursable once you receive the grant. So this project scored on the preliminary, this project scored an 85. So, which is still, I think, a 71. It was like the cutoff for the last couple of years. And we're at 85, so we're going to be somewhat in the middle of the scoring. Again, stands a great chance of being funded. One of the reasons that we're able to score so well when it comes to Ohio Public Works, and really other municipalities can't compete with us in the scoring process, is because we do have, one, we've made good fiscal decisions. Second, we have the money in our reserve accounts that we can take our cash and leverage it against the grant dollars. So when we ask for $800,000, we also say, hey, look, we're putting in over $1 million, almost $2 million of our own, well, not quite $2 million, but over a little over $1 million of our own money. So that's what makes our applications look good. That's one of the advantages of being a city versus a smaller municipality. Thoughts, comments? Good. So phase 2 is, it says at the top of the page, Greenville Creek Bridge to 4th Street. On the back side, you can see it's a $2.7 million project. We're at least 4 years out, probably longer on this. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. The key points is, one, by doing this project, the sanitary and the water is already done. So on this project, the storm would need to be done, the street reconstruction. As we look at the street reconstruction, we're going to be looking at doing a road diet, meaning that Ohio Street is way too wide. We can still get a north and southbound lane with a turn lane in the center and still have room for sidewalks on either side, pretty much within the existing pavement. So it's a really wide street. We've all traveled it. You know, it's hard to get a 35 mile an hour down through there just because of its width. But that would also have new curb, new sidewalk. We pretty much create our pedestrian path for our new school, new K-8 facility. Again, when we did the Ohio East Main Street, this project has been, it's been one of our goals. It's been one of those, you know, it's not necessarily a gateway to our downtown, but Ohio Street is a very important arterial street within our community. So if we can approve it, we're gonna make Greenville.
It's
So-
one of the worst scores that we have in Greenville of any street, and it also carries, you know, it's in the top 10 with the amount of traffic it carries, so couldn't be a better street to do. It's kind of the white elephant.
7,000 cars a day, a little over 7,000.
On which?
When you,
On Ohio Street.
Yeah.
when you,
Yeah, this was, I think the count was, on the ODOT counter, it was at about the old Greenville Township Rescue Building in the scope of where they took that count. That's where they added on the map. So, you know, it's not like it was inflated because of either intersection or road coming into it. So, 7,000 cars a day.
when you score a road, is it based upon condition or is it based heavily weighed on the use? Because there's a lot of streets that are really falling
When I
apart.
grade the street, it's completely on condition. Traveling, base settlements, transverse cracks, longitudinal cracks, and it's a list about this long. And whether it's been crack sealed, whatever. When we decide which street we're gonna look at, we take the score of the condition and factor in the ADT, the average daily traffic.
Like East Third Street, all the way down towards Tecumseh and that area down there, those streets are just about non-existent.
Right.
And that's why Vectron is doing what they're doing this year.
Because
So-
we're paving it next year.
Okay, good.
And
Yeah,
same
how
way
about-
why 4th Street was done last year, so 4th Street can be paved this year.
How about East Fourth? That's about a
consistent this
minus
year.
27,000.
That's why it's getting paved this year. East
How are you
Fourth.
gonna do that?
Mill it and
I mean, you're
pave it.
gonna mill the sides and do the little thingy along the curbs and then round it up in the center? That's
We
bull
also-
crap.
we
It needs
also
to be
mill-
cut down properly and done right. Otherwise, you're gonna come up with the same mess that you've got in 5 years, or less than 5 years. Cause all those streets out Eastwood Drive, it's cracking up already.
That's what happened on
It's
Third
pathetic.
Street, and they had to come back and fix it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
why are you gonna piecemeal East Fourth when it
It costs
has
$5 million
the
to
traffic
do
that it
it.
has? Pardon?
Because
It
we don't
costs
have the
over
money
$5 million
to do it.
I'd love to reconstruct every road, but we can reconstruct one every 5 years, and we can repave 15 every year.
It just is like taking 2 steps back. It looks pretty for a while, and then it's crap. You're not,
The area you're referring to, the Eastwood, in that Hickory, prior to, long before either one of us, they would just go out there and they would pave it. They wouldn't even profile it.
oh, I know.
And so, now the other condition that you just talked about, well, you know, let's take West Third Street in front of the Elks as an example. On that particular street, we did mill out. After they figured out, the paving company, Walls, didn't do it right first time, and said, oh, well, yeah, we should have taken more out of the middle. They came back and they did it for free. And so you streamline it prior to paving, and you figure out what the crown is, what you need to fill in or take out. We're gonna do the same thing on North Broadway, because we look in the front of the Majorite. There's no way we can just mill the edges and fill up the center. So based upon whatever the existing crown is, we're gonna evaluate it, and if we have to mill more out of the center, we'll do that. Now, 4th Street, there's not much crown to that.
There's not much center to it either. God, it's all crumbled.
Well,
It's
and
a
I
mess.
went, but the point on 4th Street is, they had a 7-inch barrier curb at one point, where it probably went from brick, and they just paved up, and they paved flat. They didn't put much crown into it. So, I think on 4th Street and probably 3rd, we'll be okay with doing a edge profile and then coming back and putting 1.5 to 2 inches.
The center of that street's a mess.
Well, and the deterioration of, I mean, if you really want to get down to it, some of the deterioration on 3rd, 4th, and 5th Street, the major factor that's causing the pavement to fail like it does are the trees, the canopy. It can't dry out. It's always wet. Water is one of the biggest detriments to standing water, especially is one of the biggest detriments to asphalt. It's one of the reasons why that crown isn't necessarily a bad thing. It sheds the water to the edges. So, anyways, for Ohio Street, the phase 2, $2.7 million, really not something we're gonna move forward with, but just want to let you know what the long-term plan as far as projects are in the coming years. The last part of Ohio Street, you have a cost estimate for it, is South Ohio, which is more of a priority. I guess the first priority would be to move forward with phase 1, and what we would like to do next year as a part of our maintenance paving project is South Ohio Street, as we look from the intersection all the way down to Seder Street. That street receives some semi-traffic, whether they're going to Fram or various areas. We have a new manufacturer on Seder Street called Falcon Packaging. They bring in a lot of semi-trailers. Used to have Snapper back in there. Anyways, with Seder Street, they're across from the Ball Diamonds Fram. You do have some industrial type traffic. Ohio Street is failing on the south side as well as the north. We looked at doing or having Ohio Street as a part of maintenance paving project this year. But when we looked at Ryan's numbers for pavement repair, where we actually go in and we take the mill and we mill down 6 to 8 inches in areas where we have base failure, the amount of money that we were spending just in base asphalt and the amount of area was like, why we really need to maybe be wiser with our dollars and look at a much more long-term fix than just putting a Band-Aid on it because of the amount of large traffic that it sees. So for those of you that have been around a long, long time, what we call Gaslight Village is what some people refer to over in the Oxford area. They did a process. It's one of the only times that we did this process in the city of Greenville. It's called FDR, or full depth reclamation. And what that process is they bring in a big mill, much bigger than the one that you see when we do our maintenance paving. And that big mill plunges down, not just through the asphalt, but down into the earth, and it basically tills and grinds about anywhere from 10 to 15 inches deep. And then what we do with that material, of that old asphalt and rock and stone, is we add a product called calcimine to it. And that calcimine is brought in and it's spread in the area that we want to stabilize or provide a new base for it. And then that big grinder is brought in again and it mixes that or tills that calcimine into the earth and whatever material was pulverized. And then we bring in big rollers, vibrating rollers, and we roll it solid. And in essence, after you let it cure, it becomes as hard as concrete. It's basically the base. And Ohio Street, or at least that South Ohio portion, is an excellent area to do this because we don't have to contend with curbs. So when you do it in a street that you have curbs, you have to stabilize, because you always pour to the curb before you pour to the street. You have to come in and you have to stabilize both sides, maybe 3 to 4 feet wide. And then you pour your curb, and then you have to come back and you have to excavate and restabilize. And it's a lot of work with curbs, much easier when you don't have curbs. So what we would like to do on South Ohio is this FDR process. We're going to be doing that same process this year on Birch Street. So if you have that cost page, you can see that it is approximately $617,000. We would like to incorporate that into our 2019 maintenance paving. Already looking at it, and you can see all these dollars. I'm going to be up front. If we, a project like this, we're not going to be doing as much overlay is what we've, almost $1 million that we've been doing in the past. So this will be a big portion of what we want to do. Would be this project. We'd have North Broadway next year, and areas like 3rd Street, and that may be all we get done, because we're going to be at that point we would be pushing a lot of money coming out of our CIP, and there's really no grants or funding that would be available for that project. More of an FYI, as we look at putting our 2019 budget together, this is one of the projects that we're going to try to incorporate into that area, because we feel that it's a high priority in the area that it serves. So again, looking at the big picture, to paint it for you, 2020, we have the ODOT paving coming out Martin Street. That's the intersection that if we move forward on phase 1 of Ohio Street, we've put up new traffic lights, new crosswalks. We've improved the area down through the bridge, getting ready for phase 2. We've done this project, the South Ohio, in 2019. So by 2020, again, that gateway coming into our community, if we could just do something with that darn gas station, would be a great, it's going to be a great gateway into our community. And that's one of the things, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'll just let you know, that's one of the things that we really try to work on in our planning process are the gateways. Whether it's North Broadway, Forest Schweitzer. What else, Chad? Gateways. We're doing the urban paving out Broadway.
118.
We've done Russ Road.
Greenville,
So all those areas that we're trying to hit, and yeah, then we do some maintenance paving in those residential areas that don't have as high traffic count. So that's kind of our planning process. Any questions on? We've pretty much hit all of the streets that we want to talk about this evening. Questions? We'll move forward with anything? No comments. Is that a no?
Glaze over.
I think we need to move forward on this Greenville Salina Road thing, the Wagner Avenue thing. I mean, that's going to be the main deal, I think, encouraging businesses to come.
And I think the other important one then after that would be the phase 1 of Ohio Street.
It'd be nice to get that taken care of prior to paving. If you guys have any questions ever on the paving, the grading criteria, average daily traffic, I have all of that.
On East 3rd, say at St. Clair, what's the time frame to get that street up to par?
I mean, it's in the next 5 years. We had, I thought it was next year, but I think it's next year. If it's not next year, it's a year after. Basically, we kind of cooperate with Vectren. Vectren works off of our 5-year plan. So if they come through and they cut it up prior to us, that way we're not cutting in a new pavement. We just let sewer failures mess that up.
Yeah.
Water main breaks.
Exactly.
Gas leaks.
Or gas
But essentially, when we set this into motion, our intent was to take care of the utilities, or try to take care of everything, or at least not have water over here and sewer here and pave over here. We try to put them all together, and we evaluate based upon kind of create a suitability, which whichever measures up the highest with the most needs. And this year's paving, we have Memorial Drive on there, and half of that is the money source that's available to us to do it, and the need for better water line infrastructure.
I think Jeff's going to help pay for some of that.
I must have missed something.
Right, yeah.
You were sleeping.
Memorial Drive.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, we have one conceptual project left to talk about this evening. We'll let Chad stand up here and talk about that.
Basically, so, I mean, for the better part of 5 or 6 years, I've served on a committee with downtown Greenville. And something that comes up a lot is trying to do some sort of outdoor dining.
Outdoor what?
Outdoor dining. It's something that restaurants have said a lot about. It's something we've thrown around for a long time. And it finally got to the point that, you know, maybe to kind of convey the idea, to try to, you know, work out something, you know, similar here as what was done in Bell Fountain, which we've been touring here as of late, and trying to get some ideas for vibrancy of downtown. They had a situation there where the city, you know, allowed them to develop out into that as long as they replaced the parking stalls in another area. But the thing is, like, you know, how do we take this to council? How do we present this? And, you know, I can sit here and tell you about it all day, but probably the best way is to actually show you what, you know, a conceptual drawing would be. So we kind of had a meeting between Mike, Mayor Kurt, myself, and downtown Greenville and the business.
Mayor and Kurt, not Mayor Kurt.
Mayor and Kurt. Sometimes I mumble. We had a meeting together to talk about, you know, how we'd want to go about this. And kind of the thought was, you know, maybe we could get a conceptual drawing to come up here and show you that this is what we want to try to work to. And, you know, maybe something that we could look to get done prior to that 2020 paving. That's going to be done by the state of Broadway and, you know, State Route 571. So really, it kind of came down to, I said, well, you know, who's going to pay for it? You know, does Main Street Greenville pay for it, who we essentially pay? And, you know, it's, you know, who should probably do that? And we kind of talked about, you know, who would do it, whatever. We went out, we had a proposal, we got a couple more, you know, kind of selected the one that's in front of you. And what that is, there's a sample of the work, and then there's another page which kind of shows you where he was going to create the two renderings.
So this is only taking up the parking areas?
Well, we had talked about originally closing off West 3rd Street, basically from Broadway to the alley, just to kind of have an outdoor recreational area. And we talked about doing similar on East 5th Street from Broadway to that alley. Kind of the idea is, what would that look like? And then additionally, then there was two spaces. I believe one was in and around the Merchant House, and the other was in front of Montage in the Palace. But kind of the thing was, you know, there's the cost of the conceptual drawing. Is that something that we should be going out and seeking out, or it was kind of to get, you know, your thoughts on that.
I could see not closing down the street, but maybe taking some of the parking spots and expanding the sidewalk areas over on those two locations. It gets pretty thick down there in traffic. So if you want to get around town.
So
And it's a little
you're
park
talking about eliminating some parking spots.
Well, we would actually be moving them. We could potentially eliminate 2 or 3 in front. If we were to curb through on East 5th and West 3rd, we would actually recoup those.
So this is an area,
I don't
this is an
follow.
area of Bell Fountain that
That's the need
has-
for the conceptual
Because, you know,
drawings.
we're going to be losing a lot of parking with the YOLO down there. You know, they say,
Yeah.
if you've been paying attention to that parking lot, it is used quite a bit. When the Dark County Developmental Disability crew comes in, they bring in like 3 buses and they park them down there. And there's a lot of traffic that comes in there. So we're losing that. Those people need another place to park.
And that loss is 3 on that, because of what we recoup along the back of the park.
But see, we're still losing parking. We're chipping away from it. And, you know, like the one thing was, well, people will park over by the old junior high parking and walk uptown.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's going to happen. It won't. We're all too lazy.
Well, not only that is for older people that can't walk that far. And so then we're gonna create a situation where they might have electric scooters or wheelchairs that would be contentious up, you know, on Broadway, of getting in and out of stores and running into people and so forth like that.
It'd be interesting to see a proposal on how to create more parking.
Yeah, I understand where you're talking about where the bus goes in there, but, you know, you're still talking about, you're not losing that much parking spaces, really.
I disagree, because I just think that is parking that's being removed and placed somewhere in an alley, and I just don't think it'll be utilized as much as parking that's right out in front, right beside the buildings and stuff. But I like the idea of the outside.
So,
dining.
so this is an area in Bell Fountain.
That is-
Similar to what you have in, on Broadway. And then this is what we're talking about as far as the bump out. So you would lose 3 to 4 parking spots. The sidewalk, you can see that they left the line so it doesn't come out quite as far as what a parking stall would. Similar to what Krista was talking about at the last meeting with the temporary green spaces.
But wouldn't that be at the business owner's expense?
Yes, yes, we're not
I'm gonna say, we're not gonna get into that stuff, are we?
And it could be used by anybody, correct?
Well, like this is a pizza place in Bell Fountain. And so this owner paid for this area to have the outdoor dining, you have the fence.
So did they purchase the property, or are they leasing the property from the city?
I believe they purchased it, redid the right of way.
And redid the right of way.
Is that gonna be-
And built in such a way that if that goes out, that pizza place would go out of business and go into something else, easily removed.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea.
Was that the purpose of the yellow coming in? There by the
What?
hamburger shop?
The what?
The park there at the hamburger shop?
Was
Is
that the
it-
purpose of?
People coming down to sit and eat and so forth?
Well, yeah, because they could get their food and go down there and let their kids.
I thought that was discussed when we were talking about that.
All of these discussions collectively have to do with what some people say as making our downtown more vibrant.
I agree with the concept, but I'm just not sure we need to take those parking spaces.
I mean, we have over 800 parking spaces in our downtown corridor.
But it's not easy to find a parking spot when things are cooking uptown at all.
I mean, by the,
A lot of times I've had to go to the main branch of a bank, and I've had to park a long ways away and walk in.
which I don't disagree with, but at the same time, we're more than willing to park at the end of Walmart, walk 3 miles through the store and back to our car, but we won't park a block down from the bank and walk to it.
No, I'm not. I drive around and around.
Sound like my
Well, when
ex-wife,
John
yeah.
would.
I understand that, but it's an entirely different concept at Walmart. When you're going downtown, it is so hard to find some place to park, and there's so limited amount of parking. You know, I know where some parking is at, behind the courthouse, but, you know, I think the businesses will suffer by eliminating parking.
And one of the problems that you'll have too is somebody that builds that on the outside, like the merchant house down here, and they do the bump out. So then you're gonna have people going to the merchant house, they're gonna be parking in front of this little crafty place that sells crafty stuff. So they're gonna be going to the merchant house, and then nobody's gonna be able to park at the little crafty place,
Well, they park too.
because they're gonna be parked on down the street and walking off.
And then the only people that can use that is the people that's going to the merchant house.
Yeah.
But if they're parking 150 feet away, even though they can't park right in front of the store,
You get people to fight over parking spots because they work downtown or they own that business and they park in front of somebody else's place, so that pisses that person off. Then this other person gets mad because they don't have a parking place to park at.
Oh, yeah, and
I'm telling you.
we had a big fiascos about the business owners parking in front of their own businesses. And when Nikki Neely was in charge downtown, she wouldn't even believe that. I said, well, when you walk down there, I said, tell me Wisman's improvement truck isn't parked right in front of their business, when they got a parking lot in the back. I said, that's what you're fighting. You gotta get your business people to realize they're cutting their own throats. I knew that because I dealt with all the parking tickets. I knew who was getting parking tickets down there. Of course,
But I think when you're looking at this, and you're talking about taking a few spaces away, but you're also talking about if you're creating some green space on West Third and East Fifth.
I wouldn't.
The way to look at those also is you've got 2 municipal lots on that Fifth Street side, and you've got 1 municipal lot on the Third Street side. So if you looked at kind of configuring your,
Well, I could see bumping out an area first, but I don't see closing down the street is viable at all. I think that is ridiculous.
well, the other thing that you're running into though, John, is you're kind of in a placemaking battle with a Troy, a Tiff City, a Piqua, and some of those things. You want a downtown to be a destination, so, you know, when you're looking at some of these other communities and what they offer, and they're offering these little parklets and some of the other green space areas for downtown,
Well, we got an area there on the circle that's parklet already.
well, the Rotary Park is what you're
Rotary
referring to?
Park, yeah.
Then just take that concept into a green space area. Again, I think you're looking at creating some things for folks to come to your downtown, and I think that, you know, when you're saying you're losing parking, you're also curbing over that area of Third and Fifth. So I think you're also gaining a few spots in that regard. You reconfigure maybe a little bit of your municipal lots. And I think if you sign it well and put signage and say,
Oh, God,
this is,
signage.
no, I'm just saying, but let people know that you've got municipal lots, because I think that's part of the problem, is people don't realize they can park there.
Well, there's signs up. I mean, there's already signage uptown where the municipal parking lots are.
So, I'm just saying.
Need more signs.
Well, then they shouldn't be complaining about parking.
Well, don't take those parking. Take that parking. The parking that's not being used. Don't take the parking that's being used. That's the most.
I'm not sure though that people would walk behind the businesses to have a,
That might encourage them. I mean, if they want to do a, concept there. I mean, I know everybody wants to be right on Broadway, drunk, but on
So-
Broadway.
The purpose of this discussion tonight, one, is to kind of gauge how you feel about the process of doing some things maybe new and different on Broadway.
Well, they're already gonna try something, aren't they?
Well, we're continuing to try a lot of things. It's hard to sometimes we sit here and we discuss, well, this is what it looks like in Bell Fountain, and equate that to how it's going to look in Greenville. And I'm going to be upfront with you that we have we've met. When I say we, Chad, the mayor, myself, Mr. Bowers, Matt Stogler from the Visitors Bureau, Krista Hutchison from Main Street Greenville, and we've discussed this, and that's why we're bringing it forward, because if this body isn't on board with it, then it's not going to go anywhere. And we need to work together on this. If it's going to move forward, nothing hidden, no secret agendas. This is, we're all in the same boat, we're all moving in the same direction. So to help us move in that direction, the proposal that is one of the last things in your packet is from Dusty Neely. And Dusty is a graphic artist. He's created renderings for other businesses and entities, and his estimate was I think one of the lowest estimates of the three estimates that we received. One was $5,000, another was in the middle of that, and then Dusty's was $2,830 to create two different renderings of our downtown with this idea of bump outs and the idea of what Third or Fifth Street might look like if it were turned into a green space. to help us visualize the concept. Being able to visualize the concept may entice us to have positive thoughts about that and figure out if we want to move forward or not. with the project.
So we need to move forward with getting these renderings,
Well,
right?
We have money budgeted for professional services in Chad's budget line item. But as I said, I'm going to be upfront. I knew that this would be a controversial topic. Some people would like it, some people may not. I wasn't just going to spend $2,800 and make a set of pictures and somebody saying, what the heck are you doing spending our money that way for? So,
Why doesn't Main Street fund this? I mean,
Yeah.
they get funding other than what we fund them. They get funding from the county, and they get funding through donations. So if this is something.
this
that
is
they
a city project. This is not a Main Street Greenville project. This is city infrastructure. This will be a city project. Same reason why we
I
had
understand
issues
that.
about the bike racks, the
But
same
if we're gonna
we had
sell
issues with the
property
kiosks.
out there, then we need for them to fund it. If that's something that they want. Don't try to overtalk me, Kurt. I don't like it. If I can't speak in here, I am not going to cooperate with these projects.
This rendering that we have of this 2000 bicentennial thing, is that just a whatever?
It's just a
or is that
sample. Just a
something
sample.
that they're, because first of all, you talked about bump out places for eateries, and now all of a sudden, this is just a place to go and chit chat or whatever you wanna do there, I guess if that's what you wanna do.
This,
That was a sample of
That
the
doesn't have
rendering.
anything to do with the eatery
It
crowd.
was a sample of the rendering that he put in his proposal to show basically his work.
It's a sample.
I could have left it out, I just thought I'd show you kind of an idea of what we were looking at.
I think I like the concept, and I think it would help, get people downtown a little more. I'm pretty much against closing off streets, because I think, we want people to be able to travel around through the city and in the downtown area, but I'm not sure that we want to close off the streets.
Do you have any idea what the business people like?
Well, the ones with the
What was your
bump out,
question?
I'd like to see
What
it.
do the business people like?
Oh,
I mean, the two
Business
people,
owners.
the two bump outs are the ones that have pushed it the most. They'd like to have that. They'd like to do an outdoor dining.
You talking about Merchant House and,
Yeah, it'd be Montage
And
Palace,
Montage and Merchant
Montage
House.
Palace, and then the Merchant House, they would like to do it.
In the merchant meetings that Krista Hutchinson has been having with local downtown businesses, it's just in initial conversations, it's been well received.
And more and more of the merchants are participating in those meetings too, I understand.
well, you put a little table out in front of the place, and you don't have a cover on it, and somebody gets hot, and then they get sunburned. Oh, I don't like to do that, so now we had to put covers over them, and then if we put covers over them, then they're gonna wanna put curtains down so they can put heat in there, so they can do it in the fall and early in the spring, and it'll just grow and grow and grow, and you won't, I don't know.
Well, the one at Bell Fountain did have retractable umbrellas. I mean, there wasn't anything built over
Have
it.
you
but-
seen that? Yeah.
They're gonna have that down at Yolo too, right?
Correct. But I mean, I don't like to put a lot over there anyway because of visibility with cars, especially if we're gonna pull it out into the drive lane. I wouldn't wanna block visibility, especially pedestrians on the other side of it.
I like the concept myself.
Same here.
This is not something that all of a sudden somebody here just came up with some idea. I mean, they found that a lot of places that it does work. And that people park in the backs of buildings and walk around to the side and come downtown. It's just not a new concept that somebody just brought up for Greenville. I mean, yeah, and it's not, and it's other places and it's not Greenville. But there is proven places that this does work and it draws people into downtown. So,
I'm going to Florence, Alabama to visit my grandkids this weekend, and Florence, Alabama is doing a lot of that, and their downtown is just booming.
I like it.
But I mean, that was kind of the purpose. We, you know, it was something we wanted to look at, get some conceptual.
Just
drawings
get these-
To bring and show you guys, to try to help, you know, show you what we try to.
We could make a more educated decision with this.
And you bring it up, and we want, you know, and try to give you information, keep an open mind, like, you know, it's,
Well, I think one of the things, if you want people to park in our parking lots back off of Broadway, the parking lots need a lot of attention. They're a mess.
No question.
They're terrible.
Well, and we've had for years a parking lot fund with
For the
penalty.
parking ticket money.
Yes, and,
Near enough to,
well, it's,
parking lots are like the, Bird Street, Ohio Street with no curb. It's a great little area to come in with that machine, and you do the FDR process, you stabilize the base. You know,
Fine.
it's one of our biggest failures, or one of the biggest problems is the base failures, the potholes. Potholes are a sign of base failure, there's just nothing underneath it.
And a lot of that is because of the brick streets back in, at some point.
Well, I think there were houses. set
Well, the
on
buildings that were there,
Yeah,
there's
they were buildings.
a lot of base failures.
So things settle.
To put it in perspective, when I started in 2001, the first project I did was the downtown parking lot renovation. And they've still sat, nothing's been done, so it's been 17 years. My second project was North Broadway, finally. So, you know, it's.
Okay.
I got a body.
That's all we have this evening.
TMI.
Okay.
So are we going forth with the renderings?
Well,
We can't take any.
Oh, yeah, that's
action.
right.
yeah, we can't.
Next Tuesday night.
That's right.
I'll bring it up during my report, kind of how I always do. Do you want to move forward with it? I don't know that it's less than 5,000 that it would need, legislation, but we definitely get an up or down vote on it. In the same way with, moving forward with, some of the grant applications.
Yeah. A lot to think about. June further?
June 5th is the next meeting, right?
yes.
I believe.
We're 2 weeks off.
What's your calendar say?
We need a motion to
Yes.
Whatever that is.
First is due.
Motion by Mr. Hensley to adjourn. Call the roll, please.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Addishell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
That's why we're along. That's what happened, that's why.
Adios, muchachos.
No, usually it's too warm.
I know, it's way too cold.
Night, guys.
Call the council.